So tonight's topic is called Arcane Ties in Russian Freemasonry, because I have to make things a little confusing for you. So a little background to that. Dr. R. Swinburne Clymer, who was the Supreme Grand Master of Fraternitas Rosicrucian. He was the Grand Master of the Fraternity, the Rosicrucian Order, passed away in 1966. During his stint about the 40s, right at the end of World War II, he took on this huge undertaking, putting together a 3-volume set called the Book of Rosicrucia, in which he kind of gives the history of all the different initiates throughout time in England and France and Germany. So it kind of really starts with Paracelsus in the 1400s, which is said to be the godfather of the fraternity. So what does this have to do with Freemasonry? So in our concept of Rosicrucianism here is a little chaotic because it's not organized to the extent Masonry is. There's different groups calling them that. Different ones having charters, such and such. And in Europe, it kind of really stopped. Like Hitler kind of destroyed the fraternity, denied access, and sought it upon himself to basically eradicate the fraternity, and he, accomplished that, much like he did with Freemasonry. But up until that time, when it was thriving, it was thought that basically in Russia and in Europe, there was a trinity. So there were 3 activities. So it derived primarily through the Golden and Rosy Cross of Europe, the Order Martinist of France, and in conjunction with the Church of Light, which is like an outreach. The entire activity in Russia was known to the profane as the Philosophical Society of Friends. And as the brothers who left during the Russian Revolution were Baroness Eugene de Laurenburg, Madame de Laurenburg, brought a lot of their library to Egypt, for France, and then to Egypt. What is certain is that many spiritual truths which form part of the teaching of the Church of Light are completely in harmony with the teaching of the Friends. The Masonry practice in Russia during its entire period, so we're mostly looking at pre-World War II time, or even in this case, pre-Russian Revolution time. So the Masonry practiced in Russia during its entire period of activity was that of the Martinist order, modified somewhat to suit the temperament of the people of Russia. This Masonry was a medium between which men contacted other men of like ideas, and it was the cement that bound them together in a common effort for a common purpose. An outer cloak beneath which was hidden the great aim, the Rosy Cross, and its work of the philosophical initiation. So the 3 greatest workers in Russian Freemasonry were Schwartz, who belonged to the European Golden and Rosy Cross, N.T. Novikov, and Ivan Lupin. So those were the big 3, the greater lights in Russian Freemasonry. The lesser lights were Ivan Turgenev, A.M. Kutuzov, and I looked up how to pronounce these, Kutuzov, and then the brothers N and V.V. Trubetsky, and then G.M. Puhudashki, Prince Enjalitchev, and P.A. Ratishev, and also P.V. Lufin. In all of Europe minus England, it is near impossible to separate Mason activities from other philosophical initiate orders. It was necessary for a candidate to become a Mason before he was accepted into the Rosicrucian or the Golden Rosy Cross. Thus, being obligated and within the bounds of brotherly unity, he might proceed with philosophical search if upon full investigation he was found worthy. This may be explained by the fact that the arcane of the Rosy Cross is a perception and a feeling which is often in itself inexpressible in words, but many find its interpretation in symbolism. Hence, the ritualism of Masonry was and frequently is the means of manifestation. It is accepted to print and share. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read for you an actual Masonic degree that they did, and it's not in violation, because what happened was during the Russian Revolution, this kind of got published because they were trying to kind of demonize Freemasons. Oh, look what they're doing. So they kind of just published this. But what's not published, much like if you read our rituals, would be, the signs and the tokens and the things of that. So there's a couple pages of this, but it'll move pretty quickly. But I thought it'd be really cool, especially since we're doing a degree tonight. So it starts in the chamber of reflection. A dark room, a tablet in one corner of the room covered with a black cloth. A tiny lamp just bright enough to enable the candidate to read. A white object, that white object a skull with a glimmering teeth. The book of Gospels upon with the first verse of the Gospel of John marked. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. As the candidate was led around the room, he was confronted with a coffin wherein there was a skeleton, and these objects were recalled to his mind as symbolizing the three great realities: God, brotherly love, and death. He was now again confronted by the questioner. Why are you here? Why have you, who do you believe in truth, and who is blind to the light, come here? What can you want from us, you who profess riches, possessions beyond the imagination, and a member of royalty? Is it wisdom, virtue, perhaps progress? So it says in this instance, it was one who seemingly possessed all desirable earthly things. The answer that the candidate would say, I seek regeneration. Further explanation of that is, Masons of all present-day rites will recognize this answer is altogether different from the demanded at the present time. Philosophical initiates, however, will at once recognize that regeneration is impossible unless one finds that which at present is demanded. In philosophical initiation, one must say that one precedes the other, or more properly, that they are attained at once and the same time. In primitive Masonry, regeneration, i.e. rebirth, was the object sought. So the candidate says, I seek regeneration. Questioner then, or I guess this would be a guide. That is well, but have you any knowledge of the means at our disposal to assist you in attaining your end? The candidate would then answer, I seek for guidance and your help. The questioner says, what is your idea of Freemasonry? The answer being, I conceive to be a fraternity of equality among men who aim at virtue. Questioner, very good, but did you ever try to attain virtue by means of religion? Answer, no, for I believe religion, as I have known it, to be contrary to truth. I have always been an atheist. Questioner, then you seek truth with a view of obeying the laws of life. Consequently, you seek virtue and wisdom. Answer being yes. Questioner, it is my duty to initiate you into the chief aim of our order. If it harmonizes with the end you now have in view, you will become a useful member. The foundation upon which it rests is such that no human effort can actually overthrow it. They preserve and transmit to posterity all important mysteries which have been handed down to us from the remotest past, from the time even of the first man and the first woman. The two original columns will still preserved, and on which the fate, the continuance, humanity depended. No man is fully able to understand them or profit by them until after long preparation, purification, and coming into the spirit, which is the light, or rebirth as a result of purification and continued effort. Our next object is to help and confront the brethren, to help them to grow better, more spiritual, to purify themselves, free themselves from carnality, to learn by means of the methods discovered by the sages, philosophical initiates, and handed down by tradition by means of symbolism, to prepare themselves to become worthy of their initiation. By thus purifying themselves, they encouraged all men, setting the uninitiated, profane, an example for righteousness and virtue, and exerting all our efforts in the struggle against the evil that is the world. Reflect on what I have said to you. The candidate in reflection. Of the three purposes suggested to me, and the third, that of regeneration of humanity, is most attractive. Mystical secrets as yet appeal to me only out of the curiosity, and I cannot feel them to be essential. Even the second, that of self-purification, does not deeply interest me, for now I feel an inner urge to renounce every vice of which I have been guilty. The appearance of the instructor. I now appear before you to the initiate, you into the seven virtues, and were symbolized by the 7 steps of the Temple of Solomon, and to which you, like every candidate that has preceded you, is pledged to exercise in his own person. Number 1, discretion. Never to betray the secrets of the order, nor the secrets entrusted to you by any other order. Obedience to the master of the order. Virtuous living. The love of mankind in general. Courage under all circumstances. Liberality, by temperance in your judgment, and give freely of your help. Learn to fear not death. And in order to school yourself in the seventh precept, I think often of death without becoming morbid, that it may lose its terror for you and cease to appear an enemy, and it will in time be as your friend to deliver the soul, wearied at last by the works of the virtue, from a life of sorrow and suffering, and guide it to its realm of peace, which is in heaven. The candidate in reflection. No doubt thus it should be, but I am still so weak that I love life as it is, and it is only by slow degrees that I may ever beginning to understand its end and purpose. As to these virtues, courage, liberation, virtuous living, the love of mankind, and above all, obedience, which I cannot yet regard as a virtue, but rather as a solace and a happiness. Nothing could suit me better than to divest myself of all responsibility and subject to the guides who are possession of the truth. The appearance of the instructor again. It is my privilege and duty to tell you that our brethren, it is not satisfied to diffuse truth by words alone, but makes use of other means, more real perhaps than words, to conceive those who seek wisdom and truth. The objects you have seen in the chamber of reflections must, if your heart is sincere, have impressed you more than any speech. Then in the course of your advancement, you will often have occasion to consider similar symbols, or order, glyphs, which are the images of abstract ideas and which embody the properties of things they symbolized. If you are fully resolved, I will proceed with your initiation. In proof of liberation, I must ask you to give me everything of value you possess. Getting there. Candidate, but I have nothing with me. Instructor, whatever you have about you, your watch, money, jewelry, or other possession. Candidate, gives up all his possessions at the moment. Instructor, now as a sign of obedience, proceed to divest yourself of your clothing. Candidate, takes off coat, lifts boot, and is about to take off the right, but the instructor says, stays his hand and himself bears the coated part, and proceeds to symbolically clothe the candidate. Instructor, finally, in token of sincerity, I ask you, what is your greatest fault? Candidate, my greatest, I have many. Instructor, the sin that has most frequently led you astray from the path of virtue. And it clarifies virtue as candidate is given time to consider. The answer, if honest, naturally differs greatly the instructor accordingly. So it's not just here's what you say. It's kind of based on what he's going to do. Instructor, is it gluttony, drunkenness, laziness, anger, hatred, women? Candidate, finally, women. Instructor, for the last time I entreat you to examine yourself thoroughly, but a bridle on your passions. Seek not happiness in them, but in your own heart, the source of all happiness as a result of well-doing. Do you still desire to continue? I do. I am ready to proceed. Conductor, then proceed with me. Notice all carefully. Listen well. Let every move, every voice be impressed upon your heart and soul, so that you may recognize them when you are brought into the light. Conductor, you will now behold the greater light. I will now instruct you in the symbolism of all the objects you have seen and those to be unveiled to you. Listen to me attentively. And then the last part is the instructor here. Finally, in our temple, there is no recognition of difference in rank, but those which separate vice from virtue. Ever beware of showing any feeling which may have a tendency to destroy this equality. Fly to succor your brother, whoever he may be. Guide the erring, condemn not. Give your arm to the fallen, forever enchain all impulse of hatred or aversion. Be kind and benevolent. Strive ever to light the fires of virtue in every heart. Share your joys with your neighbors, and never permit envy to mar your peace and happiness. Forgive your enemies and be just in your judgment of them. Take no vengeance, but by returning good for evil. In the fulfillment of these supreme laws of the order, you will regain your lost freedom and greatness. Remember always, in the light is found your salvation, so mote it be. Till we meet again, Adonai be with you. So then basically the only other thing I had to say was, every acolyte seeking to enter the Masonic temple in order to become a Mason, a builder in the true sense, was fully instructed in the concept and the answer to the very question of, what do you seek, being regeneration? This question was not repeated in the advanced studies because by that time, the neophyte had a full conception of its meaning, and henceforth he was in search of the light, which would bring him full consciousness of his inheritance. So that's what I have.
Very good, Joe.
Thank you.
I'd like to know, I was very impressed when you were pronouncing the Russian name.
Oh, I wrote them down.